So President Biden's foreign policy the FDA has granted full approval of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine for adults. Now, really quickly, let me put the little differentiation marker in between here because there's a lot of reporting on this. So the vaccine has been approved for adults. However, it's still only approved emergency authorized usage. So it only has the emergency usage authorization, or the EUA, for kids 12 to 15, for children, because they don't have the full results yet of, I guess, like testing. That, remember, you still have the third phase stuff. They can't really abridge that. And apparently the EUA is also extended for boosters and immunocompromised patients. Now, this is from like the actual Pfizer Inc. documentation itself that says this. So the full approval for adults, that comes a little bit earlier than expected, and that's what's been solidified. Albert Bourla, who is the Pfizer CEO, said this in a statement, quote, "Based on the longer-term follow-up data that we submitted, today's approval for those aged 16 and over affirms the efficacy and safety profile of our vaccine at a time when it is urgently needed," end quote. So remember, it's for adults, not for kids between 12 to 15. The EUA is still in effect. And it's also the EUA for the emergency usage authorization. That's still emergency usage only for boosters and immunocompromised. So those are, but the FDA did say that it approved the application for full confirmation or full approval for 12 to 15. So, but that hasn't been approved yet. It can be kind of in the weeds, but it's for adults. It's been approved for adults. Now, speaking of timing, it does come at a very interesting time because all this chaos that's erupting in Afghanistan with a botched withdrawal by the Biden administration. I mean, this is kind of a playbook. Nobody's really surprised by this. Nothing like a moved up FDA approval, right, to take the pressure off the administration. It did come earlier than anticipated. And better believe that's possible because, remember, many accused Pfizer of delaying news of its vaccine being available in the first place in order to hurt Trump back in the fall of 2020 when he was running for re-election. Like 2 days after the election, that's when they said they were going to do it. So this approval might be being fast-tracked to take some heat off of President Biden. I am now at this point wearing a tinfoil hat on all this stuff, so it's very likely. Of course, in addition to taking the focus off Afghanistan, the FDA approval also comes at a time when there's more pressure coming from the Biden administration and the CDC to get everyone vaccinated. So here today is Biden calling on companies to mandate the vaccine following this FDA news. Watch this.
Today I'm calling on more companies, I should say, in the private sector to step up with vaccine requirements that'll reach millions more people. If you're a business leader, a nonprofit leader, a state or local leader who has been waiting for full FDA approval to require vaccinations, I call on you now to do that. Require it. Do what I did last month. Require your employees to get vaccinated or face strict requirements.
So you have passport programs rolling out in New York and San Francisco. You now have a school in Culver City, California, demanding vaccination of all of its students. By the way, that is weird because I just said it's 12 to 15 is still emergency usage authorization. So it's not full approval for kids. It's only full approval for adults. It's not even full approval yet for boosters or those who are immunocompromised, although that is expected. No, the FDA only approved that the application for the full approval, that license was agreed to, and they're going to evaluate it further, but that's not official yet. So I have no idea why some of these schools are jumping the guns for kids when it's not full confirmation for kids. No, but the cries of vaccination are growing louder. It's becoming harder to sell the vaccine when it was still only authorized, remember, for emergency use. So now that's kind of the viewpoint, is that if they make it to where it's full approval, then maybe localities can mandate it. The U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, even admitted as much. He said this on ABC's This Week Sunday, indicating that it might tip some fence sitters towards taking the shot because people really trust the government, whatever. But will this hurry up the FDA approval? Will it hurry or encourage more or less confidence in the vaccine? I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask for some people who actually don't know whether or not they trust their government, because missing from this fast-tracked approval are any long-term studies. And who cares about that? Staying stupid is freedom, right? Isn't that like one of Marxism's tenets? I'm just curious. And the FDA stamp is coming amidst reports of waning efficacy out of Israel. And we know now that the vaccine, it doesn't actually stop full-on transmission, but it does absolutely reduce your chances for the severity of the disease and symptom. But again, even that benefit, at least some studies say that it is waning, although some studies say that it reduces your chances, so it helps keep you out of the hospital. But 60% of the COVID wards in Israel, they're filled with vaccinated patients. And then there's the issue of the booster. That's apparently going to be needed. And part of, no, it's not improved yet, because remember, it does not include that FDA approval for the booster shot, only the prior shots. But to be protected, apparently you need a third booster at some point. And again, according to the data out of Israel, who is ahead of us in terms of the vaccine rollout and getting some of the results from their rollout program, they're seeing that the immunity from the first 2 shots wanes and pretty fast. So the third shot. So again, there's no approval for the third shot, which will be needed. Maybe that's why the sped up approval for the original Pfizer shots. Maybe the CDC realizes how bad it would look to have 2 unapproved shots out there at once. And remember, there's still a healthy amount. There's a lot of questions about vaccinating teenagers with this particular vaccine who are very low risk for these severe symptoms that would make them hospitalized. Also, or put them in the hospital. There are millions of people who've had the disease or the virus and have natural immunity, which some studies say is the best protection of all, but apparently that doesn't matter in this whole conversation. Nobody talks about natural immunity. You can't talk about it, or you're an anti-vaccine, racist, bigot, woman beater, kitten, I don't know, molester. I don't know. Honestly, every name in the book has been thrown at these people. So will the FDA approval of the Pfizer jab change anything? Do you trust your government that much? Who in the world asks that question and demands a serious answer? Only time is going to tell, but I do think that it's fair to say, for many, it feels like a very calculated, sped up approval from the FDA. Still waiting on some answers to some questions that I have, and we'll see.